Rebel fans, it has been a month since we were at Allegiant Stadium watching our UNLV football team. It's a huge matchup, a chance to get bowl eligible and move to 6-0 against the Air Force Falcons. Let's preview the game. This is the Let's Run podcast. Guys, welcome to the show today. Grateful to have on my friend, your friend. If you're a Rebel fan, you know this guy. He's Mike Cooper. He is the, I guess, do I call you the editor of the Scarlet Standard? Is that an appropriate title? The CEO, editor?
I guess so.
Yeah.
It's me. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are everything. You can have the treasurer, the president, the CEO, the CFO. All of it is Mr. Mike Cooper. Probably a long time coming. I don't know if we've been on camera together on my channel. I think we have a couple of times before, but grateful to have you on, man. If you are here, guys, if you're new, please like this video, subscribe to the channel as we continue growing into this season. Also, I will leave the links to Mike's Substack and his Twitter account in the bio of this YouTube video. And also in the tweet where we're going to put out this video. So, Mike, how you doing today? How you feeling post Wyoming? How's life going?
I'm great. I mean, I'm in the same boat as you a little bit. Baby girl on the way. I'm so excited, and I know you are too. But I was very, very happy with how they played against Wyoming. I think in a sense that was probably. Yeah, offense was shaky with the passing game a little bit, but that was probably their most complete game they played all year, and it showed a lot of steps. I mean, from what we saw from them coming off the first bye week and against Miami of Ohio to coming off a bye again against Wyoming, I think they took what they learned against Miami of Ohio and really took a step forward in game prep and being ready to go right away.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can say a lot of things about this UNLV team, their defense, you can poke holes, but one thing you cannot say that they are not is resilient. I mean, think about fumbling the ball on the first play of the game, giving Wyoming an offense that struggles to score 3 points to start the game. And especially, I mean, think about what they did in Miami of Ohio, coming back from 14 down 3 separate times. And then in Wyoming to go down early in the snow and the sleet. I guess it was more hail and sleet than snow, but I think this team's resilient. And I totally agree with you in your sentiment that was a good game, man. I mean, I think if you had seen Boise State go up to Laramie and win that game, they would just be gushing. Nobody would be, they would be talking about how incredible it was and how solid it was. And there would be nobody criticizing how they won. And yet with UNLV, people still seem, and maybe rightly so. I mean, 5-0, and we haven't really played that tough of a schedule, but we've won all of our games. And so I have no issues with how that team performed at Wyoming. And I think it sets up a huge Air Force game coming up this weekend. The return trip, it's been a month since we've been in Allegiant Stadium. I'm sure you've missed it as much as I have.
Oh, I think the environment's going to be great with them being home for the first time in a month, them being 5-0. The buzz is starting to float again. You're seeing a lot of UNLV fans talk about how this team should be ranked. Well, to be ranked, take care of the games you're supposed to take care of. And, they figured out a way, like you said, to be resilient and be 5-0. And one thing I thought about right off the bat was, just like you mentioned, giving points to a team that can't score. That defense was resilient enough to just make them basically go 3 and out right off the bat and hold them to that field goal. So, it showed a lot of promise right away. But I'm excited to watch them play. I'm excited to see what the crowd is like at Allegiant Stadium. I think, it's been a long time, like you said, it's over a month. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they respond, especially with the look ahead a little bit to Boise State.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the first thing I wanted to ask you about is there's a tendency, I guess I shouldn't say tendency, but a temptation to be thinking about this Boise State game that's coming up. It's, the fourth time we'll have played Boise State in the last 3 years. Boise State, while they're not as good as they were last season, still are Boise State. We still haven't beaten them since 1976. None of the games have been, we've lost, and I think we've probably deserved to lose every time we've played Boise State in the last few years. We were close at that home game.
To be fair, I think they should have. If Hodge doesn't throw that late interception where that leads to Genty at Allegiant, I think they could have won. They could have won that game.
Yeah, they could have won the game at Allegiant. That 8.5 minute drive that Boise went on really was kind of soul sucking, kind of like what Fresno State did to Reno last week, where you need that one stop and you can't quite get it. But I think that this Boise State game being ahead of this Air Force game presents a challenge. But like we talked about this a little bit beforehand. So many of these guys are new. So many of these players on this UNLV team. I mean, 55 new players was the number I remember. I think, and they didn't play in the Mountain West Championship game last season. They're learning to play together still, and I wonder if you think that maybe the look ahead narrative could be a bit overblown. How serious do you think that could be a problem for the Rebels this Saturday?
I think it's a little bit overblown, but I don't think it's overblown in a sense. They may only have two returning starters, but there's still plenty of guys that were on the team over the last couple of years that may not get the reps or snaps that they have gotten in the past. And I believe that they want to win that game for their teammates. They know. I mean, I mentioned you kind of watched a little bit from the guys I talked to in the offseason. Like, this is the game that they've had circled. This is the game that they know they need to get over the hurdle. And if all these, Mullen talks about, perfection and winning the games you're supposed to and going 1-0. And even if you mentioned, even if you saw a little bit of after the press conference with Pope and Jet that they asked him about what the morale is on the team, and they're saying they're keeping it internal. I don't know if it's just press talk, but they're not too high, not too low. They're just trying to get the job done each week. And I think they know what the task is at hand. I mean, like Mullen mentioned, if you look at Boise, or I'm sorry, as Air Force on paper, taking the record aside, you would think that they're one of the best offensive teams in the country. Their defense maybe not as good, but they're a lot better than what a 1-4 record would say. If they were able to get a stop here and there against Utah State or even against Boise, they beat Boise. They had Boise on the ropes for that entire game, and if UNLV is not careful, that can easily happen to them.
Yeah, I totally. I worry that this UNLV defense and how we've played this season. A lot of ink's been spilled on this, and a lot of podcast sections or whatever. We rely on turnovers a lot. Like our defense is a bend not break, and eventually we kind of force a defense into errors. We give up quite a lot of yards. I mean, that's been a problem for the defense this season. But there are playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. Even if we're imperfect, eventually we do make the plays. And there are several scenarios. I mean, UNLV is a 6.5 point right now. I think that's the line that I have seen most recently, a 6.5 point favorite against Air Force. So I think that Vegas realizes that this game, that's a one score game, and this game could be really close. And Air Force, they've been knocking on the door a lot, and a lot of times when you have a team that knocks on the door and almost wins week after week after week, they eventually do get that breakthrough victory. And when I look at this Air Force offense, like you were talking about, I could totally see this Air Force offense if they stay out of turnover, if they stay out of Turnoverville, USA. I could see them really putting up a ton of yards against this UNLV defense. And with the look ahead possibilities, this is I don't even want to call it a trap game, but it kind of does feel like a bit of a trap game. And I'm going to be worried, man. I'm going to be sweating in Allegiant unless we're up by like 3 touchdowns or 3 scores or something. I'm going to be sitting there sweating my butt off because I want to be 6-0 heading into that Boise game. And I know the team does too. And they're going to want to get through this Air Force game and win it as quickly as possible. And I worry about them. And I think you share some of the same concerns.
Yeah, honestly, we kind of me and you we talk pretty consistently, and my biggest concern about this game is not even necessarily their run game; it's the passing game with Zarka. Zarka gives them a different element on offense. He may not be the most throwing the ball 25, 30 times a game, but he is, when he does throw, he's efficient, and when he's efficient, he completes 65% of his passes when he does throw, and it's 13.1 yards an attempt. So they're not short. So when he connects, they're deep balls. And this is a team that UNLV, yes, is very opportunistic, but one of the things that I think can set them apart in this game is that they don't turn the ball over on offense, and Air Force does not force a lot of turnovers on defense. So if you can control the tempo, could play your style of game, I've been beating this horse for the last 2 weeks. Give Jet the damn ball. Like, they're going to be able to take control early. I think you have to. Air Force is a team that you have to get up. It's kind of like the UCLA game in a sense, in the way that game went. Get up early and just make sure it's enough and try to hold on. Like, I'm not like obviously I don't want them to have a 30-3 potential collapse like they did against UCLA, but if they can get up, they can punch them in the mouth early, or even like a quick response like they did it against Wyoming. I think that they have to set the tone right off the bat because they have more talent, they're bigger, they're faster. You have to prove that, and you have to prove that early and often.
Yeah, the big name that you've mentioned already a couple of times is Liam Sarka. Interesting player. Air Force is such an interesting school to. I mean, they've got to be so difficult to try and maintain player. Try and keep their players through transfer portal eras because they don't use the portal like other colleges do. And Sarka is. So oftentimes you see on Twitter those kind of charts that talk about what are the highest efficiency level players in college football, and Zarka as a quarterback is pretty consistently, from what I've seen, up there. He's throwing the ball really well and really efficiently. And a lot of that's because Air Force isn't putting him in terrible positions. I guess the only time they did maybe was that Utah State game where they had those turnovers that really sunk them. They could have beaten Utah State in Logan had they not turned the ball over so much because they were gashing that Utah State defense. But what do you see from Zarka in the triple option, and why is the deep ball from him so deadly when you're trying to stop a triple option type team?
Well, to hit on your first point of what you said, if you look at the overall total offense by player in the Mountain West, he's number 5. So he has 850 yards passing, and he already has 442 yards rushing. He's right behind Jet statistically in rushing. So he's very, like you mentioned, he's a very dynamic player. He's number 3 in the Mountain West in rushing. He averages 89 rushing yards per game. He's very dangerous on the ground and through the air, which if you give him enough time, you give him, you don't make the right read on that. He's only thrown the ball 65 times this year, but with 42 completions, but those 42 completions have gone for 850 yards. So when they connect, it's that's what worries me a little bit about the secondary and how they play it. If they overcommit to the triple option and overcommit to the fullback dive or the wing, if he drops back to pass, he's going to connect. And when he connects, it's not going to be for 5-10 yards. It's going to be for 10, 15, 20 yards. I mean, if you look at their receivers as well, they have Cade Harris, who's the number 2 receiver in the Mountain West, right behind Danny. He has 446 yards. He's actually has more yards than what Jaden Bradley does. So when Zarka connects with Cade Harris, it's he has 19 catches for 446 yards. He has half of Zarka's passing yards. It's he 19 catches for 446 yards is 23 yards of completion.
That's absurd. Wow.
So
And
he
and
has
I
three catches a game at minimum 23 yards on average. Like it's that's a concerning. If you can take him away, you can stop Zarka in the pass game, make them more dimensional run, and try to make them play from behind. I think that puts UNLV in a good spot. But if you've watched enough of Air Force, I think it's kind of interesting too how much they run Zarka kind of out of the pistol as well.
Yeah, he's dynamic, man. I've probably watched more Air Force than I'd care to admit. I don't really care to watch them that much anymore. I mean, to be honest, I see a lot of Mountain West teams that are leaving for the new Pac-12 celebrating not having to play Air Force. And while I totally respect Air Force and I'm glad we're part of the same conference as them, I get it because it's kind of scary. I mean, you have to play so differently and so much more disciplined, and to know that deep ball threat is hanging there in the background at all times gives this Air Force team. I mean, this is the worst. And I guess we're going to get into how UNLV can. We've talked a little bit about how UNLV can stop Air Force's defense, so we can get into the UNLV offense here in a second. They just have to be disciplined, man. I think the safeties have to have. I think the safeties have to have a really good game to give UNLV a chance to slow down the Air Force offense. Hopefully, your Popes, your safety group, and your DBs. I mean, it's going to take a Herculean effort to just be consistent enough. Because as long as we play well, we can win this game. But if we play if we don't play discipline, it's going to be really tough. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts on what we can do to stop that defense. What are some key players maybe you want to bring up before we transition to the UNLV offense?
I mean, honestly, I think it's Zarka and it's Cade Harris. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the number 1 threat in the pass game. and their number one rushing threat. I mean, Zarka is so dynamic. I mean, he's the number 2 rusher in the Mountain West, but right behind Jet. So, I mean, it's. I think what people don't realize is Air Force. People criticize UNLV's defense for being bad in spots, and they have been. I'm not going to sugarcoat that, but Air Force's defense is giving up 37 points a game, but they're scoring 36.5 points a game, which is more than UNLV is. So if UNLV shows a Idaho State, Miami of Ohio performance on defense, I mean taking out without the turnovers, because Air Force isn't going to turn the ball over like that. They're too talent, no talent. Calhoun is going to have that team disciplined and ready to go. They're not gonna make mistakes. They may miss tackles here and there, give up deep plays, but they're not gonna turn the ball over and beat themselves in that way. I think that they have to. This might be the first game that we see them play a complete game. Hopefully a complete game without being opportunistic on defense. Yeah, you're going to catch. I think it's inevitable in any college game, no matter what level it is. There's going to be an interception, a fumble. That happens, but you can't count on 2, 3, 4 of those in a game to keep you in a game. And I think if they can play a clean, composed game, do their job, read their gaps, they'll be fine. If they don't, it's undisciplined. It might fly over that 67.5 total that it's at right now. And it's crazy to think that a Air Force UNLV game total is 67.5. It's not like they're playing Hawaii or San Jose or any of those run and shoot teams from the past.
Yeah, I mean, it shocks me how rough that Air Force defense is, because I feel like I'm used to Calhoun. Even their team last year, their defense wasn't. I mean, it had bad starts and bad games, but I felt like it was way better than this defense. And so it's gonna be a challenge. But switching over to the UNLV offense.
Well, hold on.
Go
Right
ahead.
before you
Yeah.
switch, last year they were the worst offensive team in the Mountain West, only scoring 18 points a game, but they were only giving up 23 points a game on defense.
Oh, what a difference! I mean, what's wrong with Calhoun? I'm so disappointed in Calhoun this year, because I was singing his praises. I thought Air Force was going to be like an 8 or a 9 win team this season, because I thought the Mountain West was going to be weak. What I didn't count on was Air Force's defense being a part of that weakness. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I expect Air Force as a program to eventually figure something out. I don't know if they'll be 10-win teams every year, but they should be better than this, and I think we could both agree on that. Switching over to the offensive side. Jet Thomas is the name of the game. You already talked about it. You said, give Jet the dang ball. How many carries do you think he should have in this game? I think it actually maybe should be even more than a normal game, because of, we should be trying to control possessions here. What do you think the sweet spot is for Jet?
So I wrote a piece about giving Jet the ball, and it wasn't a piece that said he needs the ball 25 plus a game. It's giving him 3 to 5 more touches than what he's getting, somewhere between that 15 and 18 carry a game. And I think involving him taking Glover's spot in more of the passing downs and letting him show off his how dynamic he is in the passing game. I think that they're selling him short in that aspect. I think somewhere between 15 to 18 is a good spot for him to have, but I think the usage that they use him at is contradicting to what Mullen said. Mullen said that they want him fresh towards the end of the game, but in reality, they're not really using him in the beginning of the game either. It's kind of, an 8 carries here, 5 carries in the second half, and everyone, screaming from the mountaintops, "Where's Jet?" And it's like, "Oh, there's Jet, 25-yard gain." So I think they need to, Dennis or Mullen, whoever, just, you can definitely tell, by the way, when Mullen starts calling plays, because Jet gets the ball and he's involved in the offense, or he's telling Dennis to get Jet involved. So I think, 15 to 18 carries, puts him in that sweet spot where it's not too heavy workload, not too light of workload. And I think integrating him more in the passing game is where they can use the dynamic. I mean, if you keep it in perspective, Calandria doesn't really use the running backs or tight ends. At least not recent in the last couple games. He did against UCLA, but he hasn't in the last couple weeks. So trying to get them involved in that aspect, even if it's Kayvon Lee, setting up swings, screens, finding them in the flat, instead of him just taking off and running, find a check down. I think getting them more involved in that aspect is going to, alleviate a lot of pressure off of Jet. I mean, I mean, Jet's only averaging 12 carries a game, and he's still the leading rusher in the Mountain West.
You just feel like if he was getting 15 to 18 seems reasonable. I would love to see him get to 20 in this game, maybe not against Boise State, but just because I feel like it would be nice to try and control possessions. Like Jet can pick up those first downs. He can be that workhorse. And I know we don't want him to be injured going into the Boise State game, but it just feels like an opportunity for him, especially against this Air Force defense, which, is I don't know. I mean, look what they gave up to Boise in the run game. I mean, Dylan Riley ran for how many yards? I mean, 300 or something, 250. I mean, it was 5 touchdowns. It was crazy. Like, can't you see Jet just controlling this game with his legs? I feel like that would be the best. And I'm okay with
100.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
I mean,
I was just going to say that I'm okay with Lee touches, and I agree with you. The Glover touches are the ones that bother me because I just don't feel like they're as productive. Even as I was worried about Lee's injury, but it feels like there's just something quite not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's Jalen Glover has a lot of talent, and I mean, a lot of the things that came out about him when he was coming out of Utah was never his talent. It was more of the mental side of the game, and it kind of showed on tape. He showed a lot of flashes, even kind of against Idaho State a little bit. And when he got involved, I don't think he likes being the number 3 back. I really don't. So I think the two guys that bought into what Mullen's trying to do is Kayvon Lee and Jet, and that's why you're starting to see those two guys kind of take the reins. And like Mullen said, and just like you just said, Kayvon Lee is a great back. He's a bruiser. Use him on the goal line, but use Jet as well. I mean, I think like you just mentioned with Riley. Riley against Boise State had 171 yards, but he rushing wise, but he only had 19 carries. But what killed he had two catches for 84 yards, and he had a 75-yard touchdown catch. So you can, if you put Jet in that kind of spot where it's 20 touches, if it's 3 receptions and 17 carries, 15, 20 or 18 to 20 carries with 3 or 4 receptions, that's getting him involved in a game that's not necessarily just handing the ball off behind him. Where's the RPO looks that Mullen was known for at Florida and Mississippi State? They haven't been as prevalent the last couple weeks. Maybe it is because Jet was questionable and he's been on injury report. I haven't seen this week's injury report yet. I don't know if it's been released, but if he's truly hurt, then I understand. But if he's not, then they need to be more dynamic and really show what he truly can do. Because he, like you just said, he's an explosive player. He's the best player in the conference, and it's not even really close.
I want to see him have, and I think this is a home game indoors. It's I think this is his chance. I think he can really get set up some good confidence heading into that Boise State game. And what I want to see from this team this week is I want to see us physically dominate Air Force. I think we can. I think that there's enough talent on this team. And I'm not saying that, our offensive line is always going to be just like creating 20-foot gashes in the Air Force defensive line. But I want to see us establish the run first. I think we can beat this Air Force team, having 3 or 4 good runs in a row, and then Calandria having Jaden Bradley down the sideline, in single coverage. And I think that's the formula.
Nobody's asking for 20 yards to carry from 20 yards per run from these backs. I think one thing that kind of set them back a little bit against Wyoming is that they had success on against Miami of Ohio and against UCLA was, that 1st and 10, that first initial carry, them getting 3, 4, 5 yards. Against Wyoming, it was, 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9. They were always behind the chains. They got to get ahead of the chains. And like you said, they can get one carry, 3, 4 carries in a row where it's 4 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards. One's either going to break or they're going to have Bradley or even O'Meara, who's really starting to come into his own, open on the sidelines.
Yeah. So we'll get into game predictions here. You don't have to give yours if you want to save yours for your preview. I don't know if you've already given your official score prediction or anything, but I will give mine.
I haven't yet.
Well, if you'd like to, you can. But if you'd like to save it for where you ever post your stuff, the way that I do game score predictions is I basically cop out and play it like a sissy because I'm always wrong. But I think UNLV can win this game. I think it's a 10-point win, something like 38-28 is kind of how I'm feeling about this game. It scares me though. I mean, this is a game UNLV could lose, especially if they're looking ahead. And especially if Calandria makes some mistakes, which he has shown he can do. He's made some terrible mistakes, even at UNLV, but especially at Virginia. That's kind of where I'm feeling in this game. I don't know how you feel about that, and if you have any closing thoughts about how you think this is going to play out.
I was pretty close with the Wyoming game. I said 35-21. So I was right in the realm. I mean, here and there kind of gets, they get a touchdown, said that field goal at the beginning of the game. Maybe it's different. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I think it's, a 41-21, 40, no, that's too high. I think, a 38-21, 41-24, somewhere around there. I don't think it's going to be this high scoring affair that people are touting it to be. I think it's going to be exciting to watch. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. We may be, sweating the game out a little bit towards the end, but I think, this is a resilient team. This is a focused team, and I think that they're very well coached enough to not let them be in a trap spot. And I think they handle business the way that they need to. And I think that, they're going to be prepped and ready to go for Boise.
Yeah, this is as good of an opportunity as you're going to get. Not because it's like a FCS type game, but because it's a game against a respectable team that can do things to you that you have to play well to beat. But it's a very winnable game for sure. It's a game that UNLV is obviously, ESPN FBI has it at like an 85% chance. We're favored by 6.5, and I believe in this team, man. I know you do too. And they've won me over. I had them at 8-4 going into the year. And now I think I was too harsh on them. But I feel like we both, even though we don't,
People called me crazy for saying that I thought they would go 11-1, and
I
it's
did. I called you crazy for saying they were going to go
I know
11.
you did. But I thought if they were to lose a game, it was the Boise game. I just didn't see the hype. I mean, obviously, I didn't expect UCLA to be that bad, but I just didn't see it. And it's but this team has grown on me too. I was very lukewarm after seeing Gunther and how much he struggled, but I think like Mullen made a good point this week when he was talking. He said that people forget that this team has one returning starter on defense. They're learning a brand new system. They have all these kids who transferred in trying to figure how to play off each other and how to play together. Yeah, it's not always fun as a fan to watch that. But once it's starting to click, and you can start to see it, you saw it in the second half of Miami of Ohio. You saw them respond over and over again in the snow. The defense and the special teams kept them in the game at Wyoming. Offense wasn't going like they were all season, and the defense kept them in that game. It, like you said, it's. I want to see the next step. I don't care about being a. I want to see the next step in growth. Show that you can play a complete game. Show that you can be special. Show the the obviously by their social media posts they know what people are saying about them. Prove it. Continue to prove it every single week and get better.
Yeah, and they absolutely can. I think this is a great opportunity, and I think this has been a great talk, man. It's been a great preview, one of my favorites that we've done this season. I hope that everybody will subscribe to Mike. He puts a lot of effort into his work, and he's one of my friends, and I consider him just a really hardworking guy that loves the Rebels as much as I do. And very few people I give that title loves the Rebels as much as I do. There are very few people in the world. It's like my mom, a couple of the Burners, some UNLV fans, and Mike's definitely one of them. So, guys, thank you so much.
I appreciate all
yeah.
the work that you do too, and thank you for everything. Thank you for having me on, and continue to put out the great content you do. I love your work. I watch all your videos. Me and you talk all the time. I consider you a good friend too, and we definitely need to connect at a game. We actually, we say we're friends and we talk all the time, but I haven't met you in person yet. So we definitely.
I'm at every game, man. I'm walking around. I always tell people to DM me when I'm at games and so we will. I mean, we've had some games where we've got a lot going on in our lives right now. Both of us have kids due, little girls due in the next few weeks. So, but thanks, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.
All right, guys. You guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Let's go, Rebels, and let's run.